Hey booktube, this is Tara and I am going to do a mid-month wrap-up for the month of March because I've already read so many books this month already that I don't want some long-winded 38-minute video at the end of this month. So I'm going to go over about 8 books, not all of the books I've read thus far because I've definitely read more than 8, but the 8 that you see in the thumbnail are the ones that I'm going to talk about. So from least to most enjoyed, I'm going to start with One of the Good Ones by Maika, Moulite. I apologize if I've mispronounced your name. In the blurb, it states that this book is The Hate You Give meets the movie Get Out, and I do agree with that premise. You're going to follow Happy, who is the main character, and she is trying to somewhat investigate or find out what happened to her sister Kezi, who was killed under mysterious circumstances at a rally or a protest. It was sort of like maybe like a Black Lives Matter rally or protest. Kezi was arrested, thrown in jail, and now she's presumed to be dead. This story has, I don't want to say it necessarily has 2 timelines, but it jumps back and forth before Kezi's death and after, and the before is 80 years before. The after is 3 months after. So I did write in my review that this book does not end the way you think it would, so it's not a predictable read. However, once you do get to the end, it ties together the 80 years prior story and the 3 months after story. This book also explains the phrase "one of the good ones," which is a phrase that society and the media a lot of times uses when it decides to care about what has happened to a Black youth at the hands of police brutality or some other senseless killing, and how it separates our community and our beliefs to believe that we should only care when it's one of the good ones that has been senselessly killed and not some other minority youth that is deemed to be a vagrant in society. So 3 stars for me. So because March is Women's History Month, I did read a lot of books this month centered around women. And one of those books was called The Mercies by Kiran, Millwood, Hargrave. And the premise of this book, it's an island called Vardo where the men would leave on their fishing boats to go fishing and bring back goods to the women, who would then take their role in cooking and providing. Well, a violent storm happens, and as the men are out to fish, all of them are killed during this violent storm. So now you have an island full of women that now have to fend for themselves. As the story progresses, you meet another character by the name of Absalom, who for some reason is summoned to the island under the pretense that he is there to provide spiritual guidance and to help lead these women, but he's really there as a witch hunter. So Absalom is convinced that this island is not full of women who have found the strength to provide and take care of themselves, but an island full of witches, because, you know, how else could women fend for themselves? Apparently, this story is based off of the 1621 witch trial of Vardo, which apparently is a true story. I found it a tad bit difficult because the language is native to this island of Vardo and it can be very difficult to understand. So I would recommend listening to the audiobook as well as reading. It helped the stories flow smoother, because if I just read this on my Kindle, I don't know that I would get past some of the language that was being spoken. Overall, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is called The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. This was my book of the month pick, and it follows the main character, Ruth, who is a grown woman and married. Her husband, Xavier, really wants them to start a family, but she has hidden from Xavier, the fact that she gave birth to a child many, many years ago in her teens. What happens after that secret is revealed is what drives the story. Ruth ends up going back home to Indiana to go to her grandmother's home to find out whatever happened to the child that she gave up as a teenager. I felt that this story was a bit drawn out, especially with the day-to-day happenings of the characters. Ultimately, it's a story about family secrets and the lies families tell to protect the ones that they love. And I also felt it was a story about the complicated line between ignorance and innocence. And I say that because there's another young main character, a young white boy, who seemingly has a black best friend. And this young white boy makes a decision where you would have to argue, is the decision he made out of innocence, or was it truly out of ignorance? Because he ends up putting someone of a different race in danger. So again, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was a little bit long-winded, but it did tell a good story. It did move me to anger at some of the scenes that were unfolding, as well as the secrets that were being kept, again, under the guise of protection. So on to my 4-star read. I read a book called The Year of Less: How I Stopped Shopping, Gave Away My Belongings, and discovered life is worth more than anything you can buy in a store. That's a very long title. The author is Cait Flanders. She is a Canadian writer. It says, I took a quote from her book: "When you decide to want less, you can buy less and ultimately need less money." So Cait Flanders is a Canadian blogger, and she chronicled her journey from being $30,000 in consumer debt to living debt-free with a spend less plan. This book was ultimately pretty inspiring. I want to say I got this book on Kindle Unlimited. I feel like I did. I can't remember because I read it, or I finished it on March 6th. She, in this book, chronicles her journey and writes out, kind of as the chapters progress, where she is as far as how much less she's spending this month, what advances she's made, what she's gained, what she's learned, so on and so forth. Another quote that I'll share is, "Throughout the year, I lived on an average of 51% of my income, $28,000, saved 31%, $17,000, and spent the other 18% on travel, $10,000. I proved that I can live on less, save more, and do more of what I loved, and learned so many other lessons throughout the process." Again, this was a very inspiring book, so I would recommend it 4 stars. My next 4-star read is Home is Not a Country by Safia Elhillo. If I mispronounced that again, I'm sorry. This book, it's short, written in prose. If you are a fan of the poet X or anything Elizabeth Acevedo, you will actually enjoy this book. It is about what it feels like to be an immigrant an immigrant in a foreign country, to feel ostracized, to feel unsure, to feel uncomfortable, the changes you have to make to yourself in order to fit into your new environment, the cultures that you have to give up in order to do so. It was beautifully written. I did listen and read along, and it was spoken very poetically. It does explain family dynamics, identity, finding yourself, gratitude. It's a coming of age story. There is a bit of magical realism in this book, as the main character is questioning her identity and why she is here and why she has the name she has. And so the magical elements that happen about a little bit more than halfway through, she gets an opportunity to go back in time to view the real reason her father is not in her life and how her life could have evolved if different events were to have happened. So 4 stars for me. It was a good read. Okay, 5-star reads. Good Talk, a memoir and conversations by Mira Jacob, no S. This is a graphic novel for adults, but it's a memoir that she wrote. It was extremely fun to read. It contains very candid conversations that Mira has had with her family, her friends, and her associates over her life. And these are conversations about race, about pain, about judgment, about marriage, politics, expectations. It was funny, it was eye-opening, sad, transparent. Overall, it was very, very honest. And the conversations that she had with her 6-year-old son, her husband, her associates, she goes back in time to having conversations in college with people. Very relatable. It expands your mind to want to have those same conversations and maybe have the conversation with her in the book in order to think about things that you may not have even thought about or considered or whatever the case. So to me, it was a quick read. I will definitely be buying the physical copy because I truly, truly enjoyed the graphic novel that she depicted. It was so creative that she did it that way. Again, if you're into candid conversations about the topics I just stated, then this is definitely a good read for you. Next is Well-Read Black Girl, Finding Our Stories and Discovering Ourselves by Gloria Edim, who is the editor and I guess introduction. That's what it says in Goodreads. I truly didn't know what to expect when I picked up this book. I didn't know what to expect. I went into it blind. So it's not an anthology, but it's more a book of essays written by Black female authors detailing their love of stories and books. So essentially, it's a book about reading Black books. And what is very helpful and good about this particular book is that it provides about midway through a list of recommended novels, classics, and stories written by Black authors. If you want a book that will recommend other books by Black authors, this is the book for you. I will be buying a physical copy, 5 stars. Last book I'm going to talk about, 5-star read, a must read if you are Black. If you are any other race, a must read. It is absolutely phenomenal. It is Asada, which is an autobiography. This was not a dry, here's what happened in my life type narrative. No, this was a very vivid account and vivid story narration about the unforgivable experiences of what Asada endured at the hands of the law, the government, and racist white people. She endured years of abuse due to lies that were perpetuated and told and propagated through the media and through the government. I guess to give you a blunt summary, she and her friend were pulled over. I believe it was New Jersey. Again, it was a minute since I read this book. I finished it on March 10th, and a police officer was shot and killed during this pullover. And she was claimed to have done it. So in this narrative, you follow Asada's life from childhood into adulthood, what she felt, what she survived, the sacrifices she had to make. She had a baby in prison. Truly, truly powerful. I feel like this story should be not only talked about, but also taught. I know in a lot of curriculum, especially here in the United States, you know, we teach about Martin Luther King, Blacks that have made contributions to the race on a positive level. I feel this story should be one of them. It was atrocious to read at times. It was, you know, you can't believe some of the circumstances she had to endure, and it lends true that you can only truly believe half of what you hear and none of what you see, especially when you learn about the lies that the government and law enforcement and those in power will tell in order to promote and perpetuate a belief about a person or a group of people. So 5 out of 5 stars, amazing read. I hope you check it out. If you've read any of these books that I mentioned, let me know your thoughts below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the end of the month for my final wrap up for the month. Thanks.